What if the worst moments of your life didn't define you but became the fuel for your ultimate transformation? In the first chapter of Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins takes us back to where it all began. A traumatic childhood filled with abuse, racism, and poverty. He could have easily been a statistic, another story of a life derailed by pain and adversity. But instead, he used those experiences to forge an unbreakable mindset. In this video, we'll uncover how Goggins learned to confront his past, take ownership of his circumstances, and turn pain into his greatest teacher. You'll learn why facing hard truths is the first step toward mental toughness and how to start rewriting the story you tell yourself. If you've ever felt stuck or overwhelmed, this chapter holds the blueprint for breaking free and building a life of resilience. Let's dive in. Welcome to Book Summary, where you can unlock the power of books in minutes, not months. Get the key insights, chapter by chapter, and start learning smarter, not harder. Let's begin. Chapter 1 of Can't Hurt Me, titled, I Should Have Been a Statistic, pulls no punches. David Goggins takes us deep into the roots of his life, where everything seemed stacked against him. Growing up in Brazil, Indiana, Goggins faced relentless racism, poverty, and abuse. His father, a tyrannical figure, ran a roller rink business and demanded Goggins and his family work long, grueling hours while enduring constant physical abuse. For young Goggins, life was a daily battle for survival, not just physically but emotionally. Imagine being a child who wakes up every day to the kind of fear that suffocates hope before it even begins. Goggins recounts how he and his mother eventually fled his father's grasp, seeking safety but finding a world that was no kinder. In school, he was one of the few black kids in a predominantly white community, and the racism he faced wasn't subtle. Racial slurs, exclusion, and even outright violence were part of his daily life. For many, this would have been the breaking point, a reason to give up and let the world dictate their destiny. But Goggins, even as a child, began planting the seeds of his resilience. One pivotal moment in the chapter is when Goggins describes how he used to lie to himself about the harsh realities of his life. He would convince himself that things were better than they were because the truth was too painful to face. But eventually, he realized that avoiding the truth was only holding him back. This is where he introduces the concept of facing your own reality, a recurring theme throughout the book. By confronting the brutal facts of his circumstances, Goggins began to understand that while he couldn't control what had happened to him, he could control how he responded. Real-world examples of similar resilience can be found in figures like Oprah Winfrey, who also grew up in poverty and faced abuse but used those experiences to fuel her success. Goggins' story reminds us that adversity isn't unique to one person. It's something many face, but it's the response to that adversity that separates those who thrive from those who remain stuck. Goggins also shares a heartbreaking yet transformative memory of being labeled stupid by teachers and peers because of his learning disabilities. He recalls how he internalized that label, allowing it to define him for years. But instead of letting it defeat him, Goggins eventually used this label as a challenge. He decided he would no longer let anyone else's opinion of him dictate his self-worth. This realization was a turning point, showing how reframing your narrative can change your trajectory. One of the most striking takeaways from this chapter is the importance of owning your story, no matter how painful it is. Goggins emphasizes that we all have two choices. We can let our circumstances define us, or we can use them as fuel to propel us forward. His story demonstrates that the latter isn't easy. It requires brutal honesty and an unwavering commitment to growth. But the rewards are life-changing. Another powerful lesson is about the mental toll of running from your past. Goggins explains that avoiding the hard truths of his life only prolonged his suffering. It was only when he stopped pretending, looked himself in the mirror, and admitted where he was falling short that he began to take control of his life. This idea resonates deeply in today's world, where many of us use distractions, like social media or unhealthy habits, to avoid confronting our own struggles. Goggins also speaks to the importance of finding strength in adversity. He didn't just survive his childhood. He used it as the foundation for the mental toughness that would later define his incredible accomplishments. Whether it was enduring SEAL training or breaking world records, Goggins drew on the lessons he learned during his darkest days. By the end of the chapter, it becomes clear that Goggins is setting the stage for the rest of the book. He's not sugarcoating his journey or pretending it was easy. Instead, he's showing us that growth comes from facing your pain, not avoiding it. His story is proof that even if you start at a disadvantage, you can still build an extraordinary life. For readers, this chapter is a wake-up call. It challenges you to examine your own life and ask, what hard truths am I avoiding? What excuses am I making? Goggins doesn't just inspire. He pushes you to take accountability for your actions and choices. His life could have easily gone in a completely different direction. He could have been a statistic, like so many others who faced similar circumstances. But by owning his pain and refusing to give up, he transformed his life into something extraordinary. In the end, Chapter 1 isn't just about Goggins' past. It's about what we can learn from it. It's a reminder that the road to mental toughness starts with being honest with yourself, no matter how uncomfortable that honesty may be. And once you take that first step, the possibilities for growth are limitless. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into Chapter 1 of Can't Hurt Me. David Goggins' story is such a powerful reminder that where you start in life doesn't have to define where you end up. I hope this inspired you to start owning your story and pushing through your limits. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who could use a little extra motivation today. And hey, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you most from this chapter? Drop a comment below, and let's keep the conversation going. Ready to take it a step further? Chapter 2, Truth Hurts, dives into the brutal reality of facing our excuses and tearing down the lies we tell ourselves. If Chapter 1 was about understanding where you've come from, Chapter 2 is all about taking ownership and making change happen. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Click over to the next video now, and let's keep this journey going together.